Russ, in a sentence, oh, that's impossible.
He's not what he appears to be.
The struggle for me was always trying to keep up with the smarter and more well-off family kids. I want to be like them. I lived in the basement of our store, under a trap door. My dad said, "You're going to be a lawyer. You got to be a lawyer, son. Lawyers have it all." That was the beginning of my real education. Man, I was so good at faking it. Hey, listen, I got a good personality. You'll like me. I can do this.
Lawyer, real estate developer.
The Pratt company's properties are now valued at over $50 million.
I was getting up to go surfing in the morning, driving my little Porsche. Man, have I made it. What now? At that point in time, I had found out about the Peace Corps.
You sort of look back, he took us to Africa.
Jumping out of the path that had been formulated for me and do something different. I broke my father's heart. Who am I going to be today? What am I going to do today? The whole idea of who I am. I want to be somebody. What do you think, Joey? You gonna miss it? Look at this gorgeous place that nobody is using. Of course, it's cold as hell. You can look at a lot of these events during this life. There's a point at which I have to change to something else. I'm almost at that point today. I know who I am now. And that wisdom comes from, looking back in 70 years. How did this happen? I still keep wondering. This was when I was 2, I think, and my brother is 5 years older. Dad, Mom. My guess is this would have been in 1937 or 8. Mom was very supportive, but she was a pure 1940s and 50s mother. Mother raised the children. Mother worked in the store. Mother worked 6 o'clock in the morning to 10 at night. My brother, as a 5-year older person, he didn't want me around at all. He would like his buddies who were 5 years older than me, and I always wanted to be chasing after them, right? Because they were doing things, but they didn't want me around, so they just take off. The simplest description of my life with my brother, we are as far apart as 2 galaxies.
Don't we all have like a wish list of like, if I had the perfect mom, the perfect father, the perfect sister, they would be X, Y, and Z. And if we could create our own perfect complements, but that's not life, right? I think that's what Russ was frustrated by, was like his brother didn't get him.
And notice my father, he looked so young. He was born in 1900. At 26, when he'd been moved to Sioux Falls, his father was killed at the Morale meatpacking plant in Sioux Falls. He was driving a big horse-drawn carriage with lumber and stuff in the back, and some big boom of some kind hit him in the head, killed him. And so my father, who was the oldest of the 3 or 4 brothers in Sioux Falls, became the leader of the family. And so he corralled everybody, and they all got jobs, and he sort of led the family until I was born, and thereafter. Dad was uneducated. Basically no education, maybe middle school or little school, because they moved around from Iowa to South Dakota. But he educated himself as a manager of a pool hall, a cab driver, and he used to gamble every day that I didn't know about for quite a long time. My dad would walk out of the store with a bag full of groceries he said he was taking to the fire station guys, which was bullshit. It was going down to the poker club. And then on the other hand, he'd have a big bunch of cash. My dad had another side that was like, hey, this is like a little bit of a hero category. Like, oh, he isn't just a straight-ass working guy who goes to church on Sunday. Hey, my dad's cool. He was a real risk taker. And that was evident when he said, okay, I've saved enough money, we're going to buy a little store down on 1909 South Minnesota Avenue. What did he know about grocery stores? But he said, I'm going to do this. So his drive was the model that led me for the rest of my life.
He had a plan and he carried it out.
In those days, they were not plans, they were necessities. You were forced to do something because you had to survive. That was major achievement in those days, when you could go into business for yourself. When you look around and you see people who, well, there's a doctor, there's a dentist, there's an accountant, lawyer. This guy's a business guy. What does he have? Well, he has a store. That's the range of available opportunity. But you got to have some kind of skill to get one of those things. He didn't have any. And then he got a store. So this damn store is like so meaningful to me. I mean, that says it in one picture. I look at that and say, of course, that's why I built shopping centers, because he did. He said, I'm going to go buy this store and run this store. It's a grocery store. What do? I develop shopping centers with the grocery stores in them. It warms my heart. And I hope to God he is able to hear me, because that makes this connection deeply, deeply pure. That's where I got it all. I wasn't born with it, I saw it from birth. '45. Peace was declared. I had 100 Sioux Falls Argus Leader newspapers in my arm, because I was going to go out and sell them to people on the street. And I hear the bells and the whistles downtown because the Army soldiers were all in town celebrating. And then I start walking up Minnesota Avenue. I just kept walking, selling the newspapers. I was just, glorious. Glorious, we won. And then to go back and look at downtown with the soldiers and all the young soldiers, 19, 18, 19, 20, 21, with girls all over the place. They're all hugging and kissing and dancing. I mean, the party went on downtown, and it was forever. Okay, vivid. I'm 4 years old. We're living at 721 South Summit Avenue. It's middle of the night. The phone rings. It's my dad on the phone, and so Don and I wake up, and Mom's there, and she's talking to Dad, and we can hear her. And Dad says, I was kidnapped by 2 prison guys, and they drove me away out and took my car and left me. I'm okay. And I've been rescued by the police. Fucking frightening, just scary. I'm 4 years old and Don's 9. And Mom is talking to him. But this is one of the risks that Dad had as a cab driver. I was pretty good in the basketball team. And we're in the Washington High School gym playing a championship game. And I remember standing there and saying, this is really cool. And the sweetest thing he ever did, when I was 15, he said, son, we're going to go on a trip. I want to go see the Chicago Cubs. And we're going to drive to Chicago from Sioux Falls. That's a long drive. But I was 15, and I brought a suit, and we stayed at a nice hotel in Chicago, up in the 22nd floor, and I remember 15 being like, oh, what am I? Here we are on the top floor of the restaurant where all these people are dressed up in coat and tie, having drinks and dancing and stuff. And my dad takes me in to show it to me. And I still wonder now, what was he showing me for? Maybe he was echoing the constant, you're going to be a lawyer. You got to be a lawyer, son. Lawyers have it all. Maybe that was it. But it was a journey of father and son that was really meaningful. That's something I wish I could answer every part of the why.
Is that what you think? He was showing you a class above where you were?
Otherwise, why would we stay at a nice hotel with a lot of successful people walking around and partying? We weren't in Sioux Falls at the Motel 6 or something. That was the beginning of my, what I'll call real education. The counterpoint for me personally was, I'm going to school with a lot of other people who live across the street in a nicer part of the neighborhood. I lived in the basement of our store, under a trap door. My brother and I had a little room in the basement of the store. We'd pull the trap door up next to the meat counter where we served people meat, and we'd go down into our little room, which had 2 single beds and some sort of closet space. Trying to be cool, and being at that age and living in the basement of a store with the cold, the rats and the mice and canned goods. And that's where we slept, dressed, and then come back upstairs. I'd go to school, and then Don and I, we'd come back to the store, and then we'd work in the store in the afternoon every day. And the struggle for me was always trying to keep up with the smarter and more well-off family kids. And I've always looked at them as, I want to be like them. It's now my sophomore year, and this is a prominent feeling. I'm trying to get ready for either a big party at school or homecoming, and I'm trying to get dressed in my little room, which had basically a curtain, not a wall, and I'm putting on my best clothes, getting dressed. I'm looking in the mirror and say, oh, that's right, okay, I'm all right. Then I would walk out and walk up the steps, push the trap door up so I could get out. I'm all dressed up to go to a party out of the basement. Oh man, I never know how much this meant. This shaped every aspect of my personality. I couldn't be anybody else but the guy getting out of his little tiny room in the basement of a store. I never put it that way. That is unbelievable. I can't believe it, because here I am now. Jeez. I guess that was pretty painful. I had no ability to understand if it was pain or not. But it was always, I was the underdog.
Did you always feel a little bit less than
Always.
most of the other kids?
Always. Even now. They decided 7 years they were so tired, they said, we gotta stop. We ended up moving to Glendale, California in '52. I didn't have a choice. So I ended up at Glendale High School. I remember everybody was much meaner looking and more fights. New kid, oh, where are you from, Russ? South Dakota? Where's that? It was not fun. Because the one thing that was the shock was I can remember how vividly, I'm on a bus going to Ralph's grocery store, because I worked at a grocery store while I was going to high school in Glendale. And I stopped around 6 o'clock. At the bus stop, a whole group of black people. And I said, wait a minute, why are we picking up all these, they're just black people, not any white people. And then I found out that there was a city ordinance that said the blacks had to be out of town by 6. Which is like, what the fuck? I said, this is wrong. Something's wrong here. I mean, it made me say, I'm going to get out of this town. I want to get out of here. Then I got into UCLA and I said, I'm out of this place. By that time, you know, getting to UCLA was like going into a foreign country. There were so many different kinds of people. It was like instantly you felt, oh, this is a sort of mixed race. You come into campus and you, oh, wow, it's all this. Very exciting, and it's all smart. Big difference from Glendale High to UCLA. It was like a leap. And it was like, oh my God, guess what? I can learn something here. I discovered that there were more people than white kids from Sioux Falls. That was like a bombshell. Sigma Nu fraternity, all white boys, all from the Snakes were a southern Louisiana or Alabama or some shit state, racist fraternity, Civil War level racist fraternity. But what did I know? I just needed a place to sleep. So I said, sure, I'll pay my minimum rent to stay here. I had met this Hispanic kid at campus. I thought, this kid is really nice. We should get him into our fraternity. So of course I presented him, his whole resume and so forth, to the board of the fraternity. They said, no, we can't do that. This kid is a quality kid. He should be in our fraternity. Rejected him.
Did you know why?
Yeah, he's Mexican. Maybe that's the first time. I was trying to bring in a non-white Christian. It's so heartbreaking to turn. I'm really sorry, but I couldn't pull it off. I thought I could get you in. Oh. And what did I do about it? Nothing. And so it was the big sorority boy-girl exchanges all the time. That was all we lived for. So Friday night, Saturday, beer and girls. You get drunk every Friday or Saturday night with everybody else. Okay. Yeehaw! And we would date all the, Pat was at a Theta.
I met Russ through a sorority sister. He was a Sigma Nu, and he had just broken up with his girlfriend. She said, look, I know this guy who's, recently broken up, and he's ready to date again, and he's a nice guy. He's in law school, and you want to meet him? Yeah, sure, I will. You went out with me on the rebound.
Well, it was a pretty good rebound.
Yeah.
I'd say it was very nice, but I don't remember it.
No, I don't remember that first date either.
Good.
I don't remember anything about our first date or second date. I just remember that I came home soon into the relationship and wrote on the little noteboard in our kitchen, he's the one. And the funny thing is that not too far into the relationship, I always knew that he was going to do really well. He didn't, I think. But I could tell. There was just something about him. It was drive and I just had that feeling.
So if you had to sum up who he was when you first met him, could you sum it up in a sentence? Was he cute?
Oh, yes. He was very cute. And as he grew into himself, he became very handsome, which was a real double-edged sword, believe me. So anyway, Russ, in a sentence, oh, that's impossible. That's really impossible. goal-driven, very focused on business and success, intelligent. I mean, he was one of the smarter people that I ever went out with, and that was really important to me too. I mean, not to brag on myself too much, but I couldn't find anybody who could hold up a really interesting conversation.
She was a dancer, a poet. She was a literary person with sensitive skill sets and sensitive behavior. She was not a raving sorority girl.
And when Russ opened the door, it was with great energy, and sometimes he'd just open the door after he knew my parents a little bit. He'd just bellow my name, Pat. And my dad liked him enough that it didn't put him off too much. Russ was strident and had strong opinions and did what he was going to do, and there was a force about him.
Al Glickman was a law school classmate, sat next to me for 3 years at UCLA Law School. Al's here, I'm here. Dave Price was here. Dave was a hustler, absolute hustler. Al, he knew he was going to do real estate. These two guys were like, you couldn't pick two better business guys to be next to you and just kind of like, give me some of your DNA, buddy. And so these are the models I had for 3 years. I'm sitting here going, what? Oh boy, wow, what? Just like.
At one point I helped him study for the bar exam. I think we were doing torts. I don't even remember what torts means.
Now I'll go to 25. Just past the bar. My good friend, this rich kid from a rich family, took the bar and failed. Good friend. Said, Russ, shit, I couldn't pass the bar. But look, I had this job, and my uncle or father's friend or something with a prestigious law firm in downtown LA. These guys are the giants in LA. Would you like to interview? Of course. So he arranged an interview. And little 25-year-old brazen courage and fuck you attitude said, I can do this. I'm going into their side of the equation. So I go to interview two older guys who are in their 80s, 3 others, only one young guy, and I interviewed all of them at once. I look back at that and say, I couldn't do that today. I'm sorry, professor. What do you want from me? Come on. But somehow I bluffed my way through it. I mean, sometimes I look back and say, man, I was so good at faking it.
That's where the poker comes in.
Thank you. Yes. Listen, I got a good personality. You'll like me. I know you will.
You guys got married. Tell me how that happened.
Which version do you want? The unspoken expectation was marriage and family. There's that song that went, love and marriage go together like a horse and carriage.
Yeah. And then we have a child. And then we have another child. So it was the emerging American dream on its way. So how could I be anything but happy?
If I ever felt like, oh, there's something under my bed, like a monster, he would take me by the hand and say, come on, honey, let's go check. let's see if there's a monster. And we would open every closet, every door, look under everything, through the whole house.
He was 100% confident in everything. So there was never any anxiety for me as a kid that, oh, shit's going to fall apart because Dad's doesn't have it handled. There was never any question, which was really cool. I mean, that was and looking back, I'm like, wow, that was stability.
Right then I said, man, have I made it. I'm married, I've got a child on the way, I've got this prestigious law firm. I achieved that one thing in Sioux Falls that I may have wanted to be like. Wow, and I'm only 25. I was getting up to go surfing in the morning, driving my little Porsche down Olympic Boulevard to LA every day, had a prestigious existence. Oh, Dad was so proud. I mean, Dad and Mom had their dream had been achieved, and I thought I was happy. Great years of learning, great clients. I mean, it was a high-class operation. That level of achievement was really significant, and I certainly enjoyed it and felt it, not really knowing the magnitude of that achievement. Dad said all the time, he said, I'm so proud of you, because I would tell him about cases that I'm working on or things we do. I mean, there are 8 years of stories about the law practice. So he and Mom were very happy about that. I knew I was going to go to law school. So I did. I achieved that. I practiced law. That's a total of 11 years of your life. Oh my God, I did it. Yeah, I'm a lawyer, but I'm bored. Business transactions, real estate, corporate stuff. Okay, you've won, and you're only 25, 26. What now? I think I'd like to do something else. So Al calls me in 1966, I need you to do me a favor. Al, whatever you want. At that point, Al was like my big brother. He was 2 years older, been in the Army, and smart as hell. And he said, I need you to represent the Sephardic temple in downtown LA. Temple Tifereth, Israel. I'm standing in front of the council, which is all basically Christian white. And I turn around, members of the council, I'm so happy to introduce you, my Temple Tifereth Israel congregation. And they all, there were 200 of them, 300 of them stand up. They all stand up, wave at the council. They want to build a brand new temple for the neighborhood, which will be really nice because it's directly across from the Methodist Church. I turn around. Thank you, dear. Very nice of you. Sit down. The significance of that one thing, that's as nice a piece of joy, I guess, I can think of in anything I've ever done. What it really prompted also was the stimulation that I could do things that helped people. I think that notion of, it didn't matter that I was a lawyer. I was doing something to help a large crowd of people. I didn't realize how much of a privilege was that meant for later in my life. At that point in time, I had found out about the Peace Corps.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Bob joining the Peace Corps Hope. No, this isn't one of my road pictures. It's another production, The Road to Peace. And you could be one of the stars. All you need is energy and willingness and guts. In a couple of years, you'd like to donate to history. The motels aren't so hot, but the pay is great, 11 cents an hour. But it's not all giving. There's a lot of getting, too. All the satisfaction of helping people who really want it. It's hard work if you can get it. And if you want to try, write the Peace Corps. I found the Peace Corps staff gig, which allowed families to go with their father, so you could take your whole family. And so I found out about that, called the Peace Corps. Said, I'd like to apply. They said, fill it out, fill it out. But the real joy came, a week or two later,
When the board of the synagogue, Temple Tifereth Israel, invited me to come visit because they wanted to say thank you. It was just really the most grateful group of people, like I was some kind of a bloody hero. One said, well, what are you going to do? I said, well, I've applied to the Peace Corps. One guy, nicely dressed business guy, he said, look, Russ, can you give me your information that you're applying for and what you want? I may be able to help you. 2 weeks later, I get a call. Peace Corps says they're coming to visit me. What? They're flying 2 people from Washington. We need to meet Mr. and Mrs. Pratt. They come. I love Pat and Dana and Kevin. 2 weeks later, I get a copy of a letter. It's from the board member of the Sephardic Temple. It's addressed to Vice President Hubert Humphrey. Mr. Vice President, I really want you to look into this kid, Russ Pratt. This guy will be a great candidate for you. That's what the letter said. And I looked at that letter and I said, oh my God. Then we got the notice, you're accepted. Dad and Mom, they were both highly disappointed that I quit practicing law. He didn't quite understand that I wanted to do something else. He said, son, why are you doing this? You've got this incredible job, you have a family. Why are you doing this, son? You're breaking my heart. I mean,
He says, honey, how do you like sand? And I immediately saw a beautiful coastline and beach. And I said, well, you know I love sand, just not in my shoes. And he said, lots and lots of sand, only sand. What? The Kalahari Desert. Where's that? In Botswana. Where's that?
I remember trying to guess, like falling asleep at night before we left, what the language would be. I would be literally making up a language in my mind, like just inventing words and thinking, oh, I'm trying to figure out in advance what the language was going to be. So it was exciting.
I never ever anticipated as a risk that I was afraid of. I knew this is going to be important. And the welcoming we had was even more comforting because they were so friendly.
We are trudging into the cold, empty transit lounge at 3:30 in the morning. We see 2 African gentlemen lying on the benches under blankets, and they hear us, and they get up and they walk over to help and to introduce themselves.
And it was the welcoming faces of 2 friends of mine forever. One became the president later. Little did I know then. And that welcoming was everything. And that's the way the country welcomed us from then on.
You sort of look back, he took us to Africa. He got his pilot's license. He flew us over the Kalahari. He took us camping and sleeping out amongst lions and elephants and wildebeest. And I never had a moment of fear. You know, I was like, this is safe. Dad seems to be 100%. And he was.
I knew one thing, that because of my own growth level at 33, that I had already learned something jumping out of the path that had been formulated for me and do something different, and that was okay for them. That this would be an experience in their growth as children to adults. Unknown, but knowing it would be beneficial no matter what.
I felt safe and cared for and taken care of, and that was this basket, you know, of growing up, was like, we're safe, we're okay. Now whatever Dad's doing, even though technically it wasn't always safe, like flying over the Okavango and different airplane things that happened. But you always felt like he was Indiana Jones. He knows what to do.
Oh, look at those kids. Those little guys. And there's Pat. This is just after we got there. This is probably one of the first trips into the desert, into the Okavango. And they're sitting there free and unafraid in a completely foreign, strange wilderness with animals. Oh, that is a heartwarming picture. Lawrence Lekalaki was a leader in the leadership group of the country. He was what Bob would just call a power player. And he had a great family. His kids were all Dana and Kevin's friends for 4 years. Formative best friends for 4 years. And he became my closest friend, which meant that I have been blessed by somebody with power in the community of the leaders, the president, the vice president. That materialized into an inner circle leadership of enormous potential.
Hi, it's July 10th, and Pat and I would like to tell you a little bit about our trip to Swaziland through the Republic and some of our impressions. The thing that really gathered, I think, momentum in our whole experience was the realization that white people in America, as well as in the Republic, really regard black people almost and treat them. When I say treat, I don't mean outwardly do things to them. It's more an attitude, a total attitude, like with their eyes they don't see them, nor with their ears or anything else. They sort of ignore them, and that's what you notice down there. It's a complete dichotomy, sort of a split off of the way people react to each other.
For a while I taught art to some of the students I had. I was misguided in my assumptions about teaching art to these people, but at one point I took them to the little museum and they had craft displays. It was old. There was black and white patterns of beadwork framed and on the wall, and this one little kid was touching it and he was saying, "Oh, this is really beautiful." And I said, "Yes, it really is. Look at that fine work." And he said, "And they told us we couldn't make anything beautiful. They told us that we were stupid." Wow. And I just started to cry.
The culture was so different, and the culture was so warm, and the people were so kind. And I think when you're in an environment where people have a lot less than you do back home, but they're better people. I mean, in the sense of what really matters, just because we get caught up in our consumerism and this fast pace, and you're like, "Oh, what are you doing? What are you doing?" There's all this ambition and drive, and people have to do things. There, it's like, look, it's much simpler, but it's sort of more simple in the best sense of like, look, what matters is other people and taking care of each other and being part of a community and your family. And so that was like, I think that hit all of us really hard. Like, oh my God, this is such a deeper way of being. So much more, so beautiful and so loving.
Meet me down by the water. Escape the crowd so we can be alone. 'Cause lately days are feeling shorter. Before we know it, the summer will have gone.
The way people treated us and interacted with us was just like, oh, that felt like home to me. It did to all of us.
Skip the winter. This town is far too crowded for us now. 'Cause 'cause lately it's getting colder, but it's warmer when you are around.
It just changed my life. I mean, it really did. Africa was like being given wings.
Meet me down by the water, escape the crowd so we can be alone.
The decision to return was very difficult because we all loved it there. But I think the pressure on Pat and on me was about the children and education. That was probably the predominant thing. Plus, both Pat and I were tired. Probably a little of each other, and being isolated that way, away from her family or mine. During the course of being in Africa, I wrote to Mom and Dad all the time. They would write back, and so we were communicating. But during the whole period of time, 3.5 to 4 years, I never came home. So I never saw Dad. They didn't come over. And he was growing sicker each year.
There's a photograph of Dana and Leanda together, taken the day that she found out that we were leaving. And it is, if a picture says 1,000 words, oh, Dana looks so sad.
When we came back from Africa, the one thing I think about, we didn't want to leave.
Brutal. Getting onto the plane on the tarmac, walking up the steps, hanging onto the guardrail, screaming, "No, I don't want to go." Parents literally pulling us onto the plane. At least I was.
I remember Kevin coming out of the airport lounge or whatever it is, walking to the plane. All of us. And 1, 2, step. Do we really want to go? I really do. Don't we want to stay? It's almost like seeing scenes of a movie. There's one section where you're here, then you move to another section. No, now you're a lawyer. Oh my God, you're in Africa with a peace. That's all amazing shifts of place and time and feeling. And yet you still keep going. Whoops, oh, here we are, we're coming home now. Oh my God. I land at the airport and drive to the hospital where Dad is dying. He's had stomach cancer and all kinds of shit. I get to him and see him in his hospital dead, and I know I broke his heart, and I come home just when he's dying. And that is the biggest regret of my life. I will be never able to soothe that wound. I should have come home sometime knowing that he was ill. My mistake was thinking too much about my life, not his. I'm almost 40. What am I going to do? When you're at that age where you recognize the obligation of support for a family, I mean, you have 2 kids. Oh yeah, you went on a great trip to Africa. It sounds like a movie, not a job. Now you have to have a job. That's a conservative way. I've got to do this for my kids and Pat. So there was no doubt I was going to make this thing work because I had to. When I came back from Peace Corps, of course, I called Mel Riley. Those 2 guys gave me the start. The relationship was as important as the deal. The relationship with them that knew more than I did. They know how to go get financing. I didn't know what that was. So I had to learn from the dirt, which is on the ground, which is, when I say on the ground, You find a tenant, you negotiate with him, and put him into a center. I thought, I can do that. That was my attitude was, I can do that. Same with everything I've ever done. And I look back on it and said, you're just crazy fuck, you know. I can't do everything. Well, yeah, I guess I can. So that motivation is what's more important. At that point in time, there was just a group of individual guys who were going after dirt to build shopping centers.
Did you ever relax a little bit, just for a moment, and think, wow, I've got something here. I'm successful at this.
It was something that would never happen today.
Yeah.
Because you basically invested all that time, 6 years of driving 3 hours, 3 times a week.
Wow.
To try to assemble the land, try to assemble the land, try to assemble the land. Meanwhile, running a parallel track of trying to get the city approvals on a bunch of land that hadn't been tied up. You'd never risk that much. Nobody in their right mind would do it. But he went ahead and they had these documents outside the city council. That's the cart wagging the horse. You don't put all that time in and try to get approvals on land you don't even control yet.
It's all about recognizing what is your fear that is going to happen that won't go right, and how do I overcome it? How do I circle around, navigate it? And all you're doing is taking your confidence in that you have a good idea and trying to find the articulation, the right words. If there's one thing I tell you, the most important single element of this journey is relationships. If you concentrate and realize that relationships mean everything to everything you do, one, you'll learn. Two, you'll learn who not to trust, because they'll tell you with their behavior. But relationships mean everything all the way through. And don't ever lose them.
Here we go.
The Pratt Company's properties are now valued at over $50 million.
I made plenty of mistakes. I was not a perfect husband at all. Over the course of a few years, Pat and I started drifting apart. I met Joni, and we started dating. Over time, Joni and I became much closer, and I got to meet her children, Michael and Jen, as youngsters. And then Joni and I decided we wanted to be together.
When Russ met my kids, he was so caring and kind and loving and mentoring. It was incredible.
He came into my life and was a big presence at a really significant time in high school. He was really there for me and guided and mentored and loved and pushed. Sometimes he comes on like very forcefully. So for example, we weren't even living with Russ yet, and I remember over the summer, Russ tried to assign Michael and me homework. Like, he wanted us to do book reports on 3 books. And Michael and I were like, you've got to be kidding me. But I really appreciated his pushing because I learned a lot about myself from it and about what I was capable of. And I know that Russ loves to play that role of mentor, and I feel so fortunate that he's been a constant mentor throughout my life.
I was 1 semester into medical school and decided that this was just not for me, and was like, well, what am I going to do next? Russ was really great in that moment because he said, why don't you come over and we'll take out the flip chart and we can just kind of map it out. And he helped me see that maybe a career in real estate might be the right thing, and gave me some pointers and some ideas of where I might start. I did that, and a couple years later ended up joining the Pratt Company. It's been 25 years.
Russ as a grandfather has also been a beautiful thing to watch, and I think he's had an impact on them in similar ways.
It wasn't always easy, but I knew we could have a really good, solid family all together.
Maybe the first real exposure was Jennifer and Michael's B'nai Mitzvah. He was just so impressed with that, and it really made a difference for him.
The synagogue that Joni and I went to is called Rodef Shalom, which means Pursuers of Peace. Established in 1955-56 by 5 major Jewish businessmen who were congregant members.
He loved it. He just loved what was going on there. And then our wonderful rabbi just took him in.
I've always been seeking and searching, not knowing what or why. It really was clear to me that this multifaceted population group as Jews was very comfortable for me to be part of, and they accepted me.
It's just been so much in his life to have this spirituality.
It was an old building in serious need of repair. Why did I, at 72 years of age, who was a modest congregant at Jerusalem, say, I think we should build a new temple? What was that?
Well over 15 years ago, we started visioning.
We're going to do this.
We got a price to renovate the building and quickly looked at each other and said,
we can build a new one for that.
And so we embarked on a process to envision what a new building might look like. And what we learned is that there were 4 main things the community really wanted in a new building. Connectedness to nature, space that had multiple purposes, a sense of awe, and to be dignified yet casual for people from all walks of life to come here to celebrate Judaism and celebrate each other.
We are feeling the energy inside of a dream. You launch a dream, and then you realize what you have to build to make the dream real, and you do it bit by bit. We all worked for 17 years to get here. It was not easy any time along the way because it was one pure 100% risk. There's always a hurdle. So how do we deal with a hurdle? Okay, I'm going to do this, do that. Oh, okay, we got through. What's the next hurdle?
To those of you here from Kol Shafar, if you were at your ribbon cutting ceremony rededication 10 years ago, Russ and I were there. And Russ and I stood side by side and said we were going to co-chair our Sacred Space Committee that day, and that we were going to be standing shoulder to shoulder in front of our congregation when we were done with our project. And today we're here.
It's stunning. It's really pretty.
It's amazing.
It's understated elegance. It's really very inviting. I love the color scheme. I love the design.
It's absolutely gorgeous, like beyond what I thought it would look like.
The latest success with the synagogue is probably the most beautiful project I have ever worked on, because I got involved with the project not to make money, but to do something I believed in with the preservation of Judaism. I mean, doing a beautiful, big, multi-million-dollar shopping center is fun, interesting, Thank God it makes money so I can live. But doing the synagogue is beyond what I would say is my reach. How do you reach that place? That was almost like going to heaven. The feeling like, oh my God, I did it. I did something. I did something. This is too much. How did it happen? I couldn't be anybody else but the guy getting out of his little tiny room in the basement of a store.
There are so many things about Russ that you just wouldn't expect. You know, he's not what he appears to be.
He's always had that kind of like go for it attitude, kind of cowboy, young at heart, athletic personality. We were in the Southern Oregon dunes and we rented the four-wheel off-road motorcycles. There was this open expanse and Russ and I were open throttle, I mean just gunning it, going really fast, and I was a little bit ahead of him off to the side, and all of a sudden the ground just disappeared from underneath me. I mean, I was airborne off this ledge, probably about a 6-foot drop. I landed it and I turned around and I see Russ launching off the same thing at the same speed. He was like, oh, okay, Michael at 20 years old, he's gonna open up the throttle on this thing and go for it? Well, I am too then. And he lands and doesn't crash, but immediately kind of crumples in the seat of the motorcycle, and he had ended up compression fracturing his spine. I mean, it was bad. However, after spending a few days in the hospital in Coos Bay, Oregon, we loaded him up in the RV and we went to Ashland. Still went to a Shakespeare play there.
We ended up in Washington, D.C. for 3 years, where he was a lobbyist for the shopping center industry. He loved it. He could easily talk to senators and congresspeople.
So many people would look at Russ, and he presents sort of as this normal guy. Okay, lawyer or real estate developer. So at his B'nai Mitzvah celebration, he's backstage. We're all putting on our shiny gold jackets. And then me and the guys go out and we start playing a groove. And then I introduce him over the groove. Give it up for Russ. And he comes trotting out, holding his horn in his gold jacket. And everybody's like, ha 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 ha, because they all think he's just going to like pretend to be part of the band. But his attitude when he comes out, it's that he's totally performing. And he's like, it's kind of a cocky strut. He's a little nervous, you can tell. And it's just so great because he gets up there and we start playing.
Hey man, blow your horn!
And people's jaws drop and he's like, Russ plays trumpet? What? And he sings? No!
I want a little girl to fall in love with me.
And then the place is just, people are getting up and dancing. It was amazing. It was amazing. And then there's this footage of him doing this interpretive, improvisational movement. And he's really good at it. And it's not what you would expect. I mean, it's out of like, where the hell did that come from? Those are the moments that I'm so proud of. It's like, wow, truly not afraid. That's a cool spirit.
Who am I going to be today? What am I going to do today? The whole idea of who I am. I want to be somebody, and I don't know who or what. And as you prove by this story, I'm just passing through a bunch of events that all have different characteristics, which is a great pleasure for me personally, because I can just, folks, I'm just passing through, and what a joy it's been.